both of you raised understanding the importance of not thinking about the indigenous population as a monolith, but understanding the nuances that take place within different tribal affiliations and regionalities. One of the things that we've really been hearing a lot about is the particular way in which the Navajo Nation has been profoundly impacted by COVID. Could you explain a little bit more about kind of the depth and the breadth of the impact that COVID has had on the Navajo Nation?
Okay, so I can speak to that. And so just to okay, and I could speak for my tribal background and my tribal um, culture. And as a Native American, um, I'm not a member of the Navajo Nation, and there are a lot of differences. So in our culture, even to speak on an issue that's not directly related in our tribe, that wouldn't really be appropriate. But I can speak on a general level, and I would have to actually like call the Navajo and say, hey, can I speak on behalf of what's going on your nation? That's just a respect thing. But as a Native American, I do know I have friends who are Navajo and live out on the Navajo reservation. And as a Native American person, I can say that due to the geographical location of the Navajo Nation, I believe that's had a major influence on the unique challenges they have. For example, the Navajo Nation is home of the largest tribe, and they sprawl across Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. So even as I spoke earlier about the challenges of, tribes, there being over 573 recognized tribes in the U.S., the Navajo Nation sits in 3 separate states. And that alone, when Tamara was speaking about how, the numbers of tribal members and community members are not always accounted for appropriately and accurately, I think it's more so with this tribe, and I think that speaks to some of the unique challenges for the Navajo. They spread over 27,000 miles, and a lot of those areas, my friend, for example, she has shared that, most of the places don't have running water, they don't have electricity, but some areas do. It just depends on where you live on this reservation. What part do you live in? And do you live in the desert area, or do you live in the forest area, or do you live in the plateaus or the mesas? It's just a lot of factors that come into play. And when it comes to water, food, shelter, and things like that, just like Tamara was mentioning, this was an issue even before the pandemic, with the Navajo Nation struggling with other issues that some tribes never have experienced, with not having running water. And I know there's a lot of churches who in the past volunteered, and there have been other organizations and groups that have volunteered to deliver water. I mean, who in this day and age even has to think about going in your kitchen and turning a knob and having water come out of a faucet? Well, that's a real issue for them. So it's been devastating in that sense, because a lot of the people are isolated to the reservation. And if I don't want to talk right now about what I was going to bring up about the smallpox and the epidemics of disease that took place in Native American history, but that's a real fear, and it's been proven now that because the culture is so tight knit and a lot of the families share homes, it's culturally that's how it is. You might have a family of 3 generations in one home, and it's hard to isolate because they may have 1 bathroom and 1 room or 2 rooms. It's not like in traditional Anglo culture where the bigger the house and more bedrooms or separate families. Native Americans historically and today are very tight-knit communities, and that's just a byproduct of the reservation itself. And then it's been something that we've adopted in our culture. If it wasn't part of how we lived before the reservations, it's definitely part of how we live today. And most Native Americans were nomads in the past. They traveled based upon the weather. But once we were placed on reservations, it was like, you stay put. This is your reservation. This is your land now. And so it created some new dynamics for the culture. And I think with the Navajo Nation, that's part of what you see. If one person gets it, our tribe is looked at as an entire family, not, okay, who's your relative? Well, we're all related. If we're part of that tribe, whether we're tribal members and enrolled, or descendants, or just community members, we are we're considered a family. So when you think about people isolating, you're going to look at, okay, me, for example, I go home with my family at my house. Well, you can look at the tribe as saying, I go home to my family, to my tribe, and that's kind of going to give you a picture of why it's so devastating to tribes, because where else are we going to go? We're so interconnected. And even now with the grocery stores, I think on the Navajo Nation, I'm thinking they have like limited grocery stores, 10, maybe 8, I don't know. It's a real small number, and these are spread out. And part of those challenges come from also non-Indians not wanting to do business with the tribes because they don't have certain freedoms, and there's other red tape. They have to come under under the authority of the tribe, and a lot of people are not willing to do that. So I'm gonna cut it short right there, but I just wanted to give that little insight, not specifically with the Navajo Nation, but a little bit about the Navajo Nation, just because of how they are, how that tribe is set up, and how their reservation is set up, and then some of the historical challenges that present as a unique challenge with the COVID devastation. I don't know if Tamara wants to add anything to that.
I just remember, I know this question is more specific to the Navajo, and like we said, we don't really try and speak for all tribes because we're so different. But I do even remember as a little girl for many years, and even now, when we would run the water, it'd come out brown. And so we still have those same issues. It's issues amongst many, many tribes. And then also to speak to just the money that the government said that they were going to give, the $8 billion, and then they go to say they're going to keep 60% of that $8 billion. But when you look at 573 tribes, as Darnella mentioned, that breaks up to about 5 million people. And when you put 5 million, if you divide 8 billion, they keep 80%, comes to $4.8 billion, and divide that by 5 million people, that comes to about $960 a person, which is less than what everybody else got for the $1,200 stimulus. So in essence, it looks big, but really when you break it down, it's still other disparities there that keep happening, and that are not addressed.